Hello and welcome to Audionaut Deep Space Network episode 124. Today we're talking about a new polysynth from Moog, and we're also going to talk something new from Apple Music, a nice reprieve from Spotify, and actually I think something that's good news, not bad news, which, when it comes to Spotify, that's what we always talk about. We've also got a new announcement, and then also in the round robin, we'll talk. I don't know. Should I try and do EONLAKE's accent? I'm not going to do it. We'll talk about what it's all about. Because when we decided on the round robin, I did an EONLAKE voice, but I'm not going to do it now. Maybe when he comes on, I'll do it. But we're going to talk what's it all about. So we're just going to talk, see where everybody's at in their musical intentions, musical place. And for anybody that might be feeling lost on the path due to social media, algorithms, the reliance on all this stuff, or seeming reliance on all of this stuff, my name is Sunwarper, and with me today is Curtis. How are you, my friend?
Good to be back. Very nice to be back. Hello, brother.
Dude, it's been such a long week. I can't remember if you weren't here last week or 2 weeks ago. That's how long.
I was. I know.
I think it was last week.
I wasn't here last week, sadly.
That's
Missed
it.
the interview with Ryan, which that was good to watch back. And if you enjoyed going into that, you should have a look at Ryan's interview last week from Sketch Audio. That was sad not to be there, but it's nice to be back here where everything kind of happens and things go. How have you been, brother? It's been busy at your end.
I think you paused out. I'm sorry if I know we're still dealing with these internet issues. I don't know if that's on my end or on Curtis's end this time. You paused out there for a second, but Sketch Audio Ryan is in the chat, says thanks for having me next time. Wonderful. Yes, there definitely will be a next time. I hope we definitely would like to have you on and geek out about compression. And it seemed like people really enjoyed it. Actually, we got a lot of good response from there, and the giveaway went really well with the Sketch Audio stuff. But we will be demoing some of Ryan's apps in the coming weeks, specifically Dr. Vibe, the good old doctor. But that will come soon. But we've got a couple people in the chat. I want to say hello to everybody. Welcome to all of our patrons, especially Thomas, one of our patrons, says first like. Yeah, awesome, Thomas. Those likes help a ton. Leaving a comment after the video ends also helps with the algorithm, pushes us out more. But Thomas is going for a quick run and then he's coming back, so he'll be feeling good. Get those endorphins from the run. That's always the way to do it. Smiling Errors is in the chat, says evening all. Hope you are good. We are well, I think. I don't want to speak for Curtis, but it sounds like he is. He's back in his studio. I'm slowly rebuilding the Dallas desk. The pedal board is set up. Let me see if I can show you. The circuit's not going to stay there, but the pedal board goes into the mixer as a bus channel. So I now have all of those for any synth and guitar that I send through this mixer. I have that pedal board that can then go into either the Digitact or the SP or both, the way the setup's going. So it's going I really like how it's going. It's just taking time to set everything up. Next is, I love alliteration, but next is going to be the loop layer.
A loop layer.
Yeah, so I think I'm slowly making alliteration for everything. This is going to be the sample section or sampler section because the SP and the Digitact are going to be there. Then I've got the loop layer, which is going to be the circuit and two synths because I can create the live loops using the circuit. And then I just need something for this because it's really the mixing section. So I don't know. I need some alliteration. Chat, Curtis, EONLAKE, who's sitting in the green room. He just came in. We'll let him in a minute, but maybe he's got an idea. But we need some M alliteration, for mixing. But while Curtis thinks, I see him thinking. I also want to say hello to our patron Abby. How are you? Welcome. Thomas is actually listening, says still running. Don't text, man. Run. Get those endorphins. We'll be here after. Don't worry about it. But welcome everybody. Should we get right into the news, Curtis?
Yeah, let's do this. Let's start with our quick little news for what we've got, because that's going to be quite exciting, I think.
Yeah.
For those who, if you're in the Discord, you may already know this, and we've been prepping this for quite a while. But we do have a new show coming out, and we're doing our first broadcast of this on Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. UTC. I believe, and this is this is our community radio event. So we're all about community here on the channel. And during the week, we talk about news, and we have round robins, and we talk about all these different things that are very current and very here. But this Music Beyond Genre will be our Sunday night show, or Sunday day show if you are in the United States, where we will be looking at music from the community, where people from the community will submit their tracks, and we'll play them and we'll chat about them and we'll just have a beautiful old time discussing it, and just immersing ourselves in the emerging sounds of those people that we know and love through the internet.
I love that. I love that. I was just going to say that we want this to be outside of the normal types of music. You know, when you go on Spotify or something, it can kind of feel daunting because if you don't fit a specific genre, like to the T, you probably won't get accepted, right? So we want to celebrate the experimental, the styles that don't fit in a named genre so easily on playlist pitching and things like that, you know, all of that. So if you've got a track, you can submit it in the Discord, or you can send it to, what is it, audionauticsounds@gmail.com. We've got 2 different Audionautic emails, so I always get confused between the label one and the thing. But yeah, Audionautic Radio, Music Beyond Genre. The one thing, we want to fit as many songs as we can in, and we have a limited amount of time. It is the weekend, so the songs have to be under 5 minutes. If you send us something over, we can still play it, but we'll just fade out after 5 minutes. So if you have a longer track, consider making like a radio edit or something like that, or hit us up, you know, let us know. But yeah, that is the one thing. And Curtis was kind enough to put the email in. But yeah, we're really excited about it. We hope to see you there. And we've gotten quite a few submissions. I think we have more than one show already, so we'll have to go from there and figure that one out. But it is coming. But don't let that deter you from submitting. Please submit. We love hearing everybody's tracks. It's awesome. And yeah, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, this is new, and it's coming out of discussions that we've been having for a long time. We're still unclear about the frequency. At the moment, we've put it in for once a month, similar to our Starstream events, which is our patron-only events. Perhaps, potentially, if time goes on, we can do more in a month. We'll see. But right now, we're going on for once a month, and it's gonna be a trip. I think it's gonna be a trip.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Yeah, for now, I think once a month, but possibly twice monthly. Thomas in the chat says, running and listening, check running. Discord if you want proof. Thomas, I could share the proof if you want everyone, you know, no doubting Thomas is here, right?
Exactly.
But yeah. What were you saying, Curtis?
It's definitely running. We've got running with one N, and we've got prof, and we've got one with an R. So he's definitely running at the same time. So that makes sense.
He's trying to run, take a picture, upload to Discord, text on Discord, text on the chat. He's a busy man. That's multitasking. That's good. All that ambient music's got him nice and calm. He can do it all, you know.
That's what we need to be, man. That's what we need to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, final thing. If again,
your audio for me got real clipped all of a sudden.
Okay, well then let me try this.
Digital. Is that better? While you sort that out, should we bring in EONLAKE? He might have an echo. This might be an interesting episode.
Let's do this. Let's bring him in.
All right. EONLAKE, what's going on? Oh, you're muted. You're not muted on StreamYard, so it might be on your. Oh, no.
Is Phantom Power on? That's the question.
Yeah, is the 48? 48. He's having a rough go. He emailed us or WhatsApped us is what it was before, saying, "Oh, having internet issues." Then when he finally got on, he says one, but he said, "Oh, now I've got an echo." So. One moment. Okay, I'll put you off.
Staying high.
He just bounced. He bounced completely. He's done. We pissed him off. Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I'm done with this audio issue." Well, why don't we get into the main attraction today, or whatever you want to call it? The Moog MUSE Polysynth. So this thing, looks pretty awesome. I have in the docket like 3 pages of everything it offers and stuff like that. Unless you all want me to read through everything, I just EONLAKE maybe. We'll let you sit there.
Mike, check.
We got you.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, brother.
It looks like you're having an existential crisis with the EONLAKE maybe.
Yeah. Identity crisis. Am I?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. How are you? We'll get to Moog in a minute. Let's hear how EONLAKE.
How am I? I'm grumpy.
I can tell. You're not even sure you're EONLAKE anymore.
It doesn't make me happy. Browser problems. Had to boot my mixer. All sorts of things going on tonight, and it's still not really everything as it should be. But
you're a mess. Is what you're saying. That's all right.
I may have been happier before all of this, but that's all forgotten now.
Well, I hope that wasn't due to
I've gone
us.
to the dark
Blame
place
someone
now.
else. Blame someone else, okay?
We better not be talking about Spotify this week.
No,
That's all I can say.
We are not
no, we got good news.
looking about good things from Apple Music.
EONLAKE, is Curtis
discussing this week.
is Curtis clipping for you too?
Yeah, yes. He
all
went. I
digitized,
heard him go fuzzy the same time as you. Yeah.
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah, it's not your mic. It's like your stream.
Yeah.
It's like digital,
Stream.
digitized, like bit crushy
Crackle.
clipping. Crackle,
Mhm.
yeah.
We are having.
You may want to like
the most
hop
fun.
off and come back on or something. Just see what happens. I hit the live stream, right? So if you go off, it's fine.
You did it, yeah. But
Now
how's
we
that?
can't
Is
even
that
hear
better?
you. That's better.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Better.
Let's not touch the microphone.
Yeah. Don't
Yeah.
And let's go
don't
forward.
piss it off. We've already got one
We-
pissed off person in the.
Don't get any pets or anything, will you?
Forever. No, I will. Steve's asleep. Tina's asleep. We've got no one standing on top of the computers today, so we're going to be okay.
Smiling Ear
but
says
yes,
EONLAKE's next T-shirt. It doesn't make me happy. It could be like Spotify, or
Love
maybe for lawsuit reasons, something akin to Spotify, just with the text. It doesn't make me happy. But to your point, EONLAKE, about that, no, we're actually talking about some good news from Apple Music for artists. Their
I know.
app or
I did read the docket.
Oh, I never know
what's
with
coming
you, so I figured I'd just keep you up to. Sometimes I like when you're just you're a wild card. I don't know if you know
just get
anything, but
reaction. We're doing a reaction show as well as top of our podcast.
Yeah, it's a live reaction sometimes. But let's get back to the Moog MUSE Polysynth. So as I was saying, chat, unless you want me to read everything about all the features and stuff, I'll just give kind of a quick one. So they've introduced an 8-voice bitimbral analog polyphonic synthesizer developed over 5 years. That one was interesting to me, combining discrete oscillators from the Mini Moog Voyager CP3 inspired mixer, dual transistor ladder filters, and stereo discrete VCAs. Integrates digital control, 64-step sequencer, parameter recording, probabilistic editing, powerful arpeggiator, and chord memory. It combines analog technology, their vintage Moog analog technology, with modern digital control, 61 key, I think it's FATAR keyboard. I might be pronouncing that wrong. Sorry if that's the case. With velocity and channel aftertouch, pitch and mod wheels, and a programmable macro knob. Performance-oriented controls with knob per function layout and more options for deeper sound design. I have to add this. The thing is 32 pounds. Like, not money-wise, but pounds weight-wise. 32 pounds. So I don't know the kilos, but that's heavy. It's not like the heaviest thing ever.
On it.
But basically what I'm getting at is you could learn to play or keep doing your synthesizer stuff, but do some bicep curls, and you'll get some nice guns at the same time. So
you could bench that puppy.
Yeah, if Thomas got this, he wouldn't need to run. He could play his ambient tunes and just do some curls, and while the drone's going, curl it a little bit, you're good to go. Smiling Ear says, why do they make it look like a 70s brick? Because they're trying to show that there's vintage analog in it mixed with the digital.
It's a heritage product.
Yeah, it's a heritage product. Let's see. So analog voices, 8 voice, each with 2 VCOs, modulation VCO, dual VCFs, and stereo VCA. 2 LFOs, dedicated pitch LFO. Oh, I like that. Assignable envelopes and 16 slot modulation matrix per timbre per patch. Pretty crazy. A diffusion delay, and then bitimbrality and voice control, so you can have 2 independent timbres per patch, stackable or split across the keyboard. I think that's kind of like with the Prophet 8, where you could like split the keyboard to be 2 different patches at the same time.
It is.
EONLAKE is our resident super synth nerd that can correct me when I'm wrong, but I'm not wrong here like I thought. So there we go. The sound engine's analog, but there's a lot of digital after that. Filters, 2 Moog transistor ladder filters with high pass, low pass modes, series, parallel, and stereo routing. I mean, it's just like I was saying, I have just like 3 pages of notes of everything that they add. So they add a ton, or there is a ton on this. There's a mod map. And then on the back, the rear panel, real quick, there's the main left, main right. So it's stereo. There's a headphones, which I actually think when I was watching Loop Pop, it's in the front. Pedal inputs for sustain and expression. You get CV in, CV outs, an analog clock in, out, MIDI, in, out, through, and over USB. and then the power. So yeah, a lot. I do have they did a video or a couple videos Moog posted. So this one I thought sounded the most like up our alley with the lush drones, and I think they're using some of the aftertouch to get some really cool stuff. So let's check that one out. Okay, we can stop it there. So what do you think, EONLAKE? Is this your next purchase? Oh yeah, $3,500.
Hell no. Hell no.
No? Why not?
I mean, it's lovely.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but yeah, in the UK, it's just shy of $3,000.
Yeah.
And you know, I people may not know I am married. I wouldn't be for long if I bought that.
What if you told your wife that it doubles as a gym?
Well, it does. Yeah, it does.
You know,
she would
be like, look, I can save on all the weights. I can just use this.
She'd drop it on me and then sell it when I
Smart
was
woman.
gone.
Smart woman. Well, what do you think about all of it, though? Sound-wise, all of that stuff.
Remind me about the oscillator. The one thing that I've forgotten about is the oscillator capability. I mean, one of the main drawbacks is obviously it doesn't have a digital oscillator, so there's no wavetable stuff for complex waveforms. But I think they included some wave folding or ways to make more interesting shapes out of the regular analog stuff. I think.
Yeah, so 2 VCOs. I didn't read this part actually. Thank you for correcting this or writing this wrong. So oscillator wise, 2 VCOs with selectable waveforms, FM routing, hard sync, analog ring modulator, and then there's a modulation oscillator with selectable waveform, audio range toggle, pitch filter, pulse width modulation routing. There's also a noise generator. So there's
So you've got your analog FM at least, but yeah, obviously not having a digital oscillator kind of limits the tonality to a certain extent. I mean, what is it? It's a flagship analog poly, isn't it? So, you know, largely it's got all the things that you'd expect on a flagship poly analog. All the midis and ins and outs and some CV and so on. The digital effects are a nice touch, I think.
Yeah.
And obviously having full recall like on the Sub 37 and their other synths, you know, to have the digital recall of the analog positions means you can have patches. You know, it's all very nice. I wonder about the key bed. I've heard that it's not the best key bed in the world, which is surprising because they've gone to the trouble of adding the aftertouch and stuff that isn't on their lower end synths. But then again, isn't surprising. My Sub 37 one was terrible, and I've actually got a repaired key on mine. It's got a nice snap in the middle with some glue.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
I think they got a bit of a history of not having the best key bed. But I mean, it looks really nice. I mean, I don't have the money for something like this at the moment. I think one day, maybe it would be nice to have something of that. I mean, it's definitely the real deal in many ways. I did watch Lupop's video on it, and he pointed out that 8 voices is not great if it's a multi-timbral synth. You know, it's fine if you're using it with a single voice, but if you split the keyboard and you've got 2 independent voices, 4-note poly is not great for each of those.
It's like 2 mini logs.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's my issue with the Prophet 08 when you split it. It's the same thing. You get 4. Yeah.
I mean, it's the sort of thing you will bang up against it from time to time.
It's doable, but yeah, like if you like doing extended chords, you know, like with a lot of notes. Yeah.
Because they've been pretty generous in all other respects. It feels like a slightly odd choice, really.
Yeah.
When it's something that people have not liked about other synths previously, and this is like, you know.
Do you think that's a cost factor? I don't know when it comes to building synths. Like, do voices make?
It's an analog factor, definitely,
Yeah,
because
okay.
obviously you've got to have a whole new circuit path for every
Yeah.
voice. You know, this is the nature of analog synths versus digital, isn't it? Where it's a lot more circuitry
It'd
to
be
get each of those
64
voices.
pounds.
But then again, you know, looking at the what was it, the Korg 3200, 3300, they managed to get a lot of voices in that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. It sounds amazing. It's got a lot more flexibility than some of their synths. But I do wonder, just as a flagship sort of $3,000 product, I wouldn't necessarily want to be banging up against many limitations.
That's
It
a
would
very good point.
frustrate me
Yeah.
a little bit, you know.
Curtis, what about you? What do you think?
If anyone's giving one away,
Yeah,
let me
like,
know.
yeah.
Obviously, I'm not that choosy. What do you think, Curtis?
Well, I think first and foremost that Moog, if you want to have an honest review, send it our way and we'll have a play. And we'll get to grips with it, and I'm sure we'll find something good to talk about it. Or find something good for it. I mean, yes, $3,500, £3,000 ish. It looks beautiful, flagship, very nice in that regard. If I had 3,500, probably would buy something else. I think for what I understand why it's there, and I understand why it sounds lush. It's got everything it needs to be pure analog, really harking back to the early days of synthesis, and that's great. And Moog are amazing. We love them. I love them at least. Again, when it gets to these boutique synthesizers where it is you're dropping a couple of thousand, at that point I go, in this modern day of everything we've got, you could get a VST emulator and then spend that money on something perhaps more valuable and more distinct and something else. You could studio for that. You know, you could do treatment and get a well treated room properly done, so you know the space that you're working in. Then get one of their free VSTs, work on an iPad, and then go for it. And you'll be making something akin to if you dropped $3,500 on a synthesizer. It's fun and it's great and it's for nerds and it's us and it's amazing. And I want one, but I'm not going to buy one.
Yeah, I think it depends on your budget, right? You know, like I think you're thinking and you're approaching it, and I get why. I mean, this is what we cover on the channel, but like you're approaching it from a budget conscious, you know, like, oh, with that kind of money, I could get one synth that's 8 voices with a bunch of knobs and options, or I could, you know, soundproof the room, pay rent, do this, eat for a month or whatever, you know, like whatever. Or I could get an iPad and this and a Moog app and this and that. I mean, it just depends kind of like what you're looking for. And I think a lot of what we cover is budget conscious and of this, you know, free range and smaller range, make the most of it and do all that type of stuff. But like Smiling Ears is saying, you know, there is this high-end synth market that exists. That's why they're putting it in this. But Smiling Ears was saying, I've always wondered about the high-end synth market. It seems as though the users prefer the bouncy keys to solid, weighty quality keys to what you were saying. Weighted quality keys. As you were getting at with that. Yeah. I don't know. So like I use my Prophet 08, which at the time, I guess, was their flagship, or, you know, was one of their flagships. But I use that as like my main MIDI keyboard too still, you know, so like I like that keyboard. So if you know, I'm kind of approaching it, Curtis, somewhat to your degree, but I'm thinking like if I had that kind of budget to buy it, like I would either have like some crazy MIDI keyboard, but I like to use, because what I like to do is I have MIDI running into the computer from like my Prophet, right? So anything I record, I get the audio and I get the MIDI. So I can then like either redo the part without having to actually reperform it, or use that MIDI on other tracks to kind of thicken it up and stuff. And so I like doing that. So having a solid keyboard is important for me, or at least one that gels for me. I haven't tried this keyboard. I can't attest to the quality or anything, but yeah, it's just interesting. But one thing I wanted to mention though, and I don't know if this is just, you know, because as a parent, very little sleep and very little time to work, when I see a synth like that, like it's almost a little too daunting for me now. Like if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I'd be like, I'm on that. And I know they kind of kept it so that it's what you see is what you get. But if you want to deep dive, there's that option to it. But like when I see all those options, I'm almost like, I just kind of want something simpler. I don't know.
I don't know. I like it complicated if it's not per function. What I don't want is something that's complicated and you have to menu dive to realize all of that complexity.
It seems like they're trying to go between it though, because I think what it says in the thing is that it's like it's not per function, or you can go into the sound design, like go deeper.
Right. Okay.
So I think that's interesting. But yeah, I think for where I'm at, as you know, it's like most of my time is spent doing other things. Like learning a synth is probably not where I'm at right now, but going to a synth, like what I love with the Mini-Log, I'm not always the biggest fan of all of its sounds, but like that's literally pretty much it. Like those,
it's really quick.
It's quick. So I kind of need that right now, you know? And yeah, so I'm not trashing it. I'm just saying like for where I'm at personally, we're kind of all giving like our overall thoughts and then where we're at with it. But yeah, it's like, would I like one? Sure, but I don't think I'd have the time to learn it at all right now.
I mean, in the interest of correcting myself, I suppose it's not their flagship synth, is it? Unless they've discontinued the Moog 1, because that one was about $8,000, I think.
Was that a poly?
Yeah, but it's only 8 voice poly again.
Try timbral
then. Wow.
The Moog 1
with 8 voices.
Interesting. I wonder how that one splits like that.
Pad and 2 leads.
Well, on their website, it's saying you can find a dealer.
Either way, I'm going to have to grow another arm.
Oh, no. Moog 1 is 16 voices, it looks like. For $10,000. Yeah, here, hold on. Let me see.
They might have done more than one version of it. Then,
they may have. Yeah, let me just see quickly if I can share this, because this is interesting. It's definitely not then their flagship, because look at this.
There's an 8 and a 16. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I wonder if the 8 is a bit cheaper.
It is.
Yeah, it looks like
cheaper, but
I mean, I'm not saying it could
still
be
2 of these
discontinued.
muses.
Yeah, it could be discontinued and still for sale, just like for stock, but it is still available. 61 key tri-timbral. I wonder what it splits to if it's 16 voices. Like, how can you choose the split of the tri? And the this new one is 61 key as well, isn't it? I think it is.
I think so.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't add this to chat. Nobody added it to the stream. But here we go. So this one is 9,999. And this is the Moog 1 16 voice tri-timbral with 3. So it is definitely a lot buffer.
That's the beast.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me wonder if you're gonna get an all singing, all dancing analog poly, you'd probably want to take it as far as you can, because you're not going to do it again unless you're some sort of crazy collector with more money than sense. But I don't know. I mean, do I need this? No, I don't. You see, much like you, that's just not where I am. You mentioned like getting to learn a new synth. I don't know it would be that hard. I mean, it's subtractive synthesis, a lot like some of your other gear. I don't think it would take too long to learn it. But
yeah, I have 10 minutes a day basically.
At the moment, I'm more interested in weird, strange things that do stuff that you've never heard of before. Weird little boxes that you can stitch together into a crazy madman studio to create weird noises. That sort of thing appeals to me more now, rather than looking for everything in one bit of kit that's really expensive.
Here's one thing I'd say though, just like I would think this would be awesome as like having a synth for your studio if you need like an analog synth, like the one synth that kind of like your flagship in the studio or whatever. I could see. I mean, it's only 8 voices,
but if you need,
if you want, like, if you don't have an analog synth and you want one like this, I mean, $3,500 for what it offers, from what I recall of this kind of market, is fairly competitive. I'm thinking of like Oberheim, sequential, all that type of stuff for an 8 voice. With all the stuff it does, the built-in effects, all of the mod stuff and things like that. It does have the noise generation.
It's actually pretty flexible, I think. I think it's got a few more features than some.
Yeah, so what I'm getting at is like if you're in the market for like a awesome analog polysynth that's in that price range, you could do worse, you know? And Thomas keeps asking about audio over USB. I don't know. It does have different USB connections. I'm not sure about that. That's something I'd really like to see more of. Like
it's definitely got MIDI over USB, but
it does.
I'm not sure that it does.
Yeah. I really hope we start seeing that more audio over USB because
well, there's a class compliant 2 channels over USB that you can just do right without no drivers or anything. So it would be nice to see things like this, wouldn't it?
Yes, because I use that. I mean, this is look, you can see that's how I have the SP plugged in. It's getting power, audio. It's like the best thing ever. Curtis, what were you going to say?
On driver updates.
What were you saying, EONLAKE?
It's not dependent on driver updates either. It's class compliant.
You hate those driver updates.
Huge thing for me.
And Curtis, what were you going to say?
I feel like if you were, I think again, it comes down to setting in that regard. And I think if you were a touring musician or a touring keyboardist, and this is what you were interested in, and this was your livelihood, then it seems like a good way to go. It looks good on stage. Everyone knows what Moog is. You know, you've got that logo on the back, and it does look beautiful. It does seem to be a very nice piece of gear. In a similar vein to you, EONLAKE, I think I'm at that stage where I'm at the moment where I'm in that space where it's just like, how weird can I make these sounds and why? And I wonder if you put 8 different artists in a room with 8 different versions of these, how
that's a lot of money.
Would everyone come out making some sort of synth wavy pad? You know what I mean?
Yeah. How much would it vary? I don't know. I mean, I maybe I'm just a bit low rent, but I just think Profit Rev 2 is about a third of that, and I could get all sorts of other gear as well. Do you know what I mean?
I'm going to look up how much the Rev 2 is. Well, let's see. Is that the 16 voice? I see.
Yeah,
2,500. No, 8 voice is 2,500 on Sweetwater.
So it's still a grand cheaper, isn't it?
Used, you can get it for about 1,500.
Yeah.
And then let's see the Profit 6.
I mean, it's not the same thing. It's not, you know, but you know, I would probably get something cheaper like that and some other gear if I had that kind of money.
Interesting. The Profit 6 is. It looks like. Go ahead, Curtis.
For where we sit and for what we're doing. Yeah, I understand that. I understand the pull and the fanaticism over the boutique market and the high end market. I get it. I understand it, and it would be beautiful to sit down with an afternoon and play with one. I just wonder whether this is the high end market. I just wonder whether it's something a bit like it's just getting smaller and smaller and smaller in that regard as the generations move through and as everything becomes digitized and everything like that. Is it something that we're just going to see less of? There's obviously a market for it today,
and I hope not.
But is it something that we're just going to see less of in that regard?
I hope not. I mean, Moog did get bought out recently, right? They were acquired or something. So yeah, I hope not though, because I mean, I got to tell you, like my Profit, it's an 08. It's old. It's from, I got it in like 2013, and I think it had already been out a couple years or something. Like it wasn't used. I bought it new, but there's something about those like quality analog synthesizers that maybe they don't do a lot. Maybe they don't do crazy weird sounds, you know, in the way like a little box that does all this like crazy ambient drone stuff would do or something. But you sit with it and it's just like it just sounds amazing.
It's a musical instrument.
Yeah, exactly. Like playing the guitar or something like that. So yeah, we cover a lot of budget stuff, and I know we approach these things from budget standpoints, but I think it's important to also like when you sit down with something like that, if it's built well, if it's quality, it's something. And I just really quickly want to show same market as this Muse, the Profit 6, which is a 6 voice, is also 3,500 from Sequential. So we are looking in a price range that's similar. So you get a lot with this. I'm not saying it's better or worse than the Profit 6 or like you were saying the Rev 2, which is the updated Profit 08. Just wanted to show, like we were discussing, that seems like it's in a sits pretty well in the market, and it does look like it. I mean, you know, like that's it's a lot of money.
They're not being stingy, and it sounds like a beast. It will definitely take care of business. Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Anything else, EONLAKE, on this before we move over?
No, I think it's time I shut up.
No, I never want you to shut up, EONLAKE. Curtis, anything? But then I'll move over to Curtis, so shut up. No, kidding. Curtis, anything else on this before we go?
No, let's head across the community corner. I think it's time.
Okay. All right. Then carry us over.
So yes, welcome to the community corner. Fantastic. So let's start with this notion that we do this show on a weekly basis, week in and week out. Sometimes we drop in and drop out with different people, that kind of thing. But we do it. We don't have sponsors. This show is brought to us by our patrons, and there's ever more of you. And thank you ever so much for the support that you give us on a monthly basis through Patreon. It is due to you that we can keep on doing this. As we continue to grow, we have more overheads each week, each year, sorry. And it allows us to keep going and doing this thing because you want us to, essentially. And we can be ever more adventurous. Like we say, we've got a brand new show coming out on Sunday. That's in part because we have the faith in the community that you guys are a part of and that you're here for. So thank you for everything you do. And if you are not a patron, but you want to support the show, obviously sharing, coming in, and being part of the chat on a weekly basis is lovely and amazing. If you wanted to put a little bit into the coffers to allow us to do this a bit more, head across to patreon.com/audionautic in order to get that done. For that, we do Starstream, which is in 2 weeks, I believe, which is our patron monthly hangout. Plus early access to all our Audionautic releases and extras. There's a brand new sample pack up on the Patreon, which we put up, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah, which we made separately but together and in an interlocking.
Interlocking.
Yeah, we weren't actually when we met in Interlaken, we just made music. But while we were both in Interlaken, we happened to use our microphones to record things. And wouldn't you know, we put them together to make a sample pack.
And it's to reiterate, we have some found sounds, we have some sounds from nature. We have then resampled those sounds into kicks, snares, hi-hat, one-shots, percussions, etc., which are completely unique. In the day of splice and in the day of sample packs coming from here, there, everywhere, you click on an Instagram link and suddenly there's a brand new sample pack in your inbox. These tend to be fairly similar in regard, and they kind of fit down the same thing. These are brand new resynthesized from nothing, basically, which means they're completely and utterly new. Exactly. And they're wicked for that, in that sense. We had a lot of fun making them, resampling them, and synthesizing them from nothing. They are unique, and they've never been seen before, so go nuts. And if you're a patron, they're there.
If you do have those sounds, if you join the Patreon, a perfect time to try using them is in our new Discord challenge, Track in 60 Minutes. So you got 60 minutes to make a track. So if you need sounds to start with it, those would be a nice one to have so you don't waste time in those 60 minutes to finding sounds and things like that. So basically what happens is if you want to head over to our Discord, it's open for all. The link, I think, Curtis, is in the description. If not, we'll put it in there while I'm blabbering on. But all you got to do is head to the Discord, go to the Server Challenge channel, and say that you want to take part in it. And the way it is, there's one rule. You make the whole track, whatever you make in 60 minutes, that's the final version for this submission. You can always go and do more work if you like the track, and you want to release it in some other fashion or something. But I believe, when is the, I don't have it written down, but I think it's August, the end of August is the last. Hold on, I got to go to the calendar. It's going to be August 28th is the listening party. So right before ADSN, so we go live at 11 a.m. At 10 a.m. on the Discord in the voice hangout, we all hang out and listen through everybody's tracks, have a lot of fun, give feedback, but not in a critical way. The whole point of this is to get out of our comfort zones, do something different, but learn in it. I try to work fast. That's something I've done lately, but I've never done something in 60 minutes. I was pushing for the 10-minute, make a track in 10 minutes, but it didn't win. It was so close. But we did a vote, and Curtis was the deciding factor. He was late, and I almost said, you snooze, you lose. But I was like, you know what? We'll let it stand, because I know, I don't want to create roadblocks. I want as many people as we can to do it. And if you feel more comfortable with 60 minutes, then awesome. I could still make it in 10 if I wanted to. There's nothing stopping me. But that's the goal. I'm going to live stream making it. I'm assuming Curtis is, because he got it. EONLAKE has to actually finish his other track so we can get that on the compilation. But I don't know if you've ever made a track in less than 60 hours. So I'd be curious if you could make something in 60 minutes. I think it would sound awesome. But that's the point. We want to push ourselves as a group to get out of these things we normally do, because you never know. Something beautiful comes out of challenge and trying something different. And so that's what I'm looking forward to, seeing like how can you do this. So yeah,
I'm gonna cheat.
EONLAKE, you cheat? No, well, yeah, that is the thing. We are doing it based on the honor system.
I don't mean cheating on the time. I mean cheating like I'm gonna plan it in my head outside of the 60 minutes.
There you
go. So that I know
Whiteboard.
exactly what I'm doing when I sit down.
It's all going on the whiteboard.
It's a question, right?
And it may not be a full orchestra, you know, maybe only half orchestra. So let's, you know.
Yeah.
In that name, that is a very good point, actually, because I have just managed to fix my live streaming capabilities, which has been nice. For those who don't know, I haven't live streamed for about a month, maybe 2, because StreamYard's just not been playing ball. But now suddenly it's playing ball.
StreamYard or Streamlabs?
Streamlabs. And so I've got it up and running. So I'm going to start again next week, essentially. And yes, I want to stream this Notion, right? Question is, does sound selection count?
So we had this discussion in the chat last week because Bendu was saying like, oh, it shouldn't count because I do like all the stuff. And originally I said, well, it should. But then I was like, it could take an hour sampling vinyl if you're making a vinyl track. So it shouldn't count. So what I told him and what we decided is that, what is this? Like,
he's got an opinion.
Do it in 60 minutes. Stop being lazy.
All right. Well, let's put it this way: if you're not working, EONLAKE is against it. But let's make it easy because again, I don't want to create friction. Let's just get to creating, right? So if you're not making the song, like in sound design, let's say you're designing a synth patch. If you're not like playing the chord progression, like, oh, I'm going to use this chord progression, that counts if you're doing that. But if you're just going like holding a C note as you make a synth, that doesn't count, in my opinion. But we can throw it to the chat.
But this sounds like, I'm not going to go into details, but this sounds a lot like the only metaphor I can think of is sexual.
Right? Let's not go there.
If you use your imagination, you can probably think where I'm coming from.
All right, yeah,
making samples before you actually, it's just
no. I'm not saying you make the samples.
The whole thing.
I agree. That's what I said. But Bendu was staunch that it doesn't count because I'm doing the mod. It's on the modular and it's not making music. I don't want to create friction. I want people to create. But EONLAKE, if you are this vehemently opposed to it, then what we can do is chat. You tell me if you want me to throw a poll on the Discord for all the participants to decide. We can let democracy win here. Steelhead asks, are we allowed to use presets? Look, I said the only rule is make the track in 60 minutes. So whatever you want to do.
I'd say presets are probably a good idea if you want to get it done in 60 minutes.
Yeah. Here's what I'm thinking. This is my tactic. I'm going to, in the 60 minutes, because I agree with EONLAKE, it should count. But in the 60 minutes, I'm going to use a sound, make a sound on the mini log, not make it, but like choose one that I've already made probably like ages ago, eons ago. And then I'm going to just record a chord progression into the Digitact. And then I'm going to just flip it on that and then call it a day. That's my 60-minute. That's the way I'm going to do it. So I'm going to count the sound design part as part of the 60 minutes because I'm crazy and want to challenge myself. But like I said, I don't want to create friction. So if you feel the sound design part or the sampling process,
I think everyone should do it however they see fit.
The goal is though,
just fun.
Don't do the chords and stuff in that pre-session, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
In the play section.
That's fair.
The warm up.
I think
that's all I'm saying. That's all I'll say.
When you play before.
Yeah, that's why I said the play
before
section.
Play.
Oh yeah, like never changed, my friend. But anyways, that's all I'll say is don't do like I've got a drum beat because I was designing the drums and I happened to make this cool beat. I'm gonna use it. That counts as a 60 minutes, in my opinion, and it should for the rules. But if you're just going like I need drums, I'm gonna find this. Yeah, okay. If you don't want to count that, fine. Yeah. So Curtis, does that answer your question in a long-winded and unintended, I guess, innuendo way? Thanks, EONLAKE, for that.
I love it. You know me, I love a bit of foreplay. I think the notion of just
he was kind enough to not say it. He added the beat.
I think the notion of I'm just thinking now. I'm glad that I've got a load of instrument racks where I've just got all my synths in a big rack and just click and drag them in. But I like the idea of starting from my blank Ableton template and just seeing what goes
That's
down.
what I would recommend, because that's the
Yeah.
hardest challenge, and I think we
I think
should
so.
challenge ourselves. But
Mm.
like I said, I want people to do it. So whatever gets you
Okay.
creating and gets you to try this challenge, because like Thomas was saying, I've never made a full track 100% release ready in 60 minutes. I mean, yeah,
Join the club.
The goal isn't to make a fully release ready track. The goal is to make a track in that time frame, challenge yourself, because a lot of us, I'm speaking from myself, will want to keep tweaking, and the idea is just see where you land in 60 minutes, and then all of us friends, we're not here to judge and be harsh to it, are just going to listen and have fun, and most likely you'll be surprised by the reactions of everybody in a good way, because it's just a goal to get out here, try something new, finish something, because a lot of us take a lot of time to finish these things, and so it's just, what can we do in 60 minutes, So
supposed to push yourself. Extra credit to anyone who can do a 60-minute track in 60 minutes.
Yeah. Well, you could always just make a track, throw it in Paul stretch, and put it at like the longest stretch. That's my fail safe in the live stream. If I hate what I come up with, I'm gonna just throw it in Paul stretch in the last like 5 minutes and be like, I made a drone.
We'll make it work. It's gonna be fun. What's the date again? Sunwarper for submission?
The 28th at 10 a.m. So you can submit. This isn't like Secret Sample. If you make a track beforehand, you can submit it on the Discord anytime. I think Smiling Errors posted his like already, and then he was like, "Can I keep working?" I forget what he said, but basically, like if you post one, you can post multiple submissions. Well, you can post multiple ideas you do in multiple 60-minute sessions, but you can only submit one. That's the thing. So if you have versions you don't want to use, post those in the works in progress channel. But the one you actually want to submit, post that one to the server challenge channel, and yeah, we'll go from there. Now, I would recommend, if not live streaming it, at least filming it. You don't necessarily have to post it, but it is proof that you did it in 60 minutes. But we're not requiring that. But we also do marketing here. Like we talk about social media marketing and stuff. And a 60-minute video, you can chop up a ton of stuff from it, from the production angle. You could then overdub it, discussing how you did something if you want. There's a lot there that you can do. Thomas says, should I account for the time I've spent recording the samples I use? So we already discussed that. I'm counting mine, yes. But we discussed, because someone was asking about like modular sound design as no. So it really depends on you.
Yeah.
I'm going to count mine. I would recommend you do, because it just makes it harder, which is good.
Yeah.
We're talking
bearing
about
in mind, the guy talking is the one who wanted to do 10 minutes.
Yes, bear that in mind. Yes. So I've got 40 or 50 extra minutes, or 40 extra minutes or whatever. So I've got extra time.
It's going to be a boring live stream. It's going to 10 minutes of song and then just sit there for 50 minutes.
Mixing.
But yeah, make your own decision, I think, really, on those things. It's not. Yeah.
This is all fun. There's no pressure here. It's all fun. Again, if you really take longer than an hour, then so be it. Like if you're not showing proof of it, where we're using the honor system, you can lie, but then you have to live with yourself. And if you can, then hey, great. More power to you.
Went 62 minutes, that's between you and
no, that's illegal. 69 or nothing. Since we're on the topic.
No idea.
Back at 69 minutes. From now on, it's not 60, it's 69. So you can get 9 minutes of play. All right, let's move on. Before EONLAKE dies here. Let's just zoom in on his. You started it, man.
I did. I got no one to blame but myself.
Smiling Errors is going full Harry Potter here. So let's just move on. We're done with it now.
So some good news, hopefully. Now EONLAKE come onto the show angry. Hopefully we have got some news
I was gonna say, I think he cheered up in the challenge segment there. He got rather excited.
Cheer me up some more if you want, though.
Yeah, can give it a try. Give it a try. So this is the news. If I've shared, put the screen there. If you want to add to the stage, we do have some great news coming out of Apple and streaming services for once. The fact that Apple Music's analytics have expanded, and to now they will include global radio plays. This is really interesting. So before it was just what you streamed on Apple Music itself, but now you'll be able to see anywhere in the world if your track has made it onto a radio and whereabouts. So essentially, there it is monitoring over 40,000 radio stations, and it's partnered up with Shazam to do this. And then you can see in the analytics of Apple itself, you'll be able to see detailed breakdowns of their radio plays, which are then segmented by song and station, geographical
Here,
location, etc.
This may not look amazing, but I can show, like, if you look there, you can see
Just
top
look
radio spins, and you can
Yeah.
slide and see. So I was wondering, I'm glad we'll get back to it in a second. I wanted to say, I was wondering, like, are these Apple radio things like Spotify radio? Because I noticed the stream numbers on Apple Music wouldn't correlate with the radio plays on the same app. But now you're saying it's teamed up with Shazam, and it's radio, not actually Apple radio. It's like terrestrial radio or whatever it's called. Like,
Yes,
actual.
I think exactly. I don't know if it's restricted just to DAB radio at this stage. That makes sense to me, but I don't know. From what I can research, it's not really clear. It just says radio, but it is radio as opposed to streaming or anything else.
It'd be nice if they tell you the radio stations, because all you get is a metric. Let me see if I can show it. All you get is a little metric of like the amount of spins. Let's see. I hit mute. Not
number per track.
You get like a count, like radio spins in 7 days, and then if you scroll down, you can see, this is what I was saying, top songs, and then Shazam's, and then radio spins. It's completely different than the songs, but that's because of that. Now, I'm sorry that's a very crude way of showing it. If I had time, I would have taken screenshots and whatnot. But yeah, that's all you get. You get the total number, and then you get the breakdown of the songs played. So it would be nice to see, like, this, because I'd like to say thank you. You know, like,
yeah, it would.
Thank you, whoever the hell you are.
If you happen to be watching this show,
I really appreciate that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the places page, essentially what you've just been showing there, shows and identifies specifically where geographically your stuff is being played. So that allows you to go into the idea of maybe targeted ads or just, pushing local playlists, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You can also see, like, say, you can see your plays, who's listening now, and then trends from the last 48 hours. You can also see average daily listeners, anyone who's purchased anything, who's been Shazamming you, video views, etc. The whole point of this is that it's or Apple says at least, the whole point of it is to push your sense of performance, how well you're being exposed, as opposed to being used for royalties, for example, which we use with the streaming statistics and stuff like that. It seems to be a great way and a great window into this notion of where can you be played in a more traditional sense, which gives you a greater understanding of where you are popular, for want of a better phrase. Like Willibrand, for example, he's very popular in Melbourne. That's where he's based at the moment, and he's always getting onto these local playlists for local artists. And it's kind of, in that regard, bringing this through to radio play gives you that notion of the traditional learning and the community surrounding your releases and stuff like that. And that's nice, I feel. I mean, EONLAKE, where are you sitting at with this?
I am not opposed to these developments. I quite like it, actually. Having had just a quick gander at mine, been pleasantly surprised. More information, I think, is better. I think it's easy to get lost in metrics, especially with streaming, especially when, they seem to just only exist to justify streaming's existence, whereas this feels like something slightly different. Like you say, it's not necessarily streaming related directly. You're talking about radio shows. I'm going to have a little look to see what information they have about these. I think it's 30 or 40,000 stations that they're referring to. But if you're thinking about exposure pushes and things like that, and you're doing campaigns, and it may be another way of just assessing what your reach has been like and how successful certain campaigns have been. Especially if your campaign is elsewhere, to see if it cross-pollinates over to this as well. So, I mean, usually the statistics that you get are kind of like mildly helpful, but they're also, you know, there to underpin the platform itself, whereas this feels like it is actually slightly useful, and I'm kind of glad for that. Bit more money would be good too.
That'd be nice.
That'd be nice.
I have one, I guess, critique or bit of feedback I would add.
Go for it, mate.
In that, and I kind of already said it, but this is my issue with Apple Music for artists or whatever in general, is that it's very like surface level statistics. You can't go in depth. Like you mentioned, you can see purchases. You can see like Apple iTunes purchases, but you just see a number. They don't even have a section that shows like what's been purchased. Because if they're talking about, you know, wanting to see metrics to like know your growth and all that type of stuff, knowing what's being purchased would be a pretty good indicator of what people resonate with enough to buy instead of just stream. And
also an easy win, right? I mean, it shouldn't be hard to get that info.
Yeah, it shouldn't, because they can show you the songs that are being streamed. It's a very simple metric. They've added a little, like they've added quite a bit of stuff lately. They add little things you can share. Again, I'm going to do this thing, but you can share these things to social media, like become a fan favorite, and you can make a link that goes on your story and stuff. They tell you when you hit certain milestones, like 500 plays on A Moment of Lifetime, and like, you know, the last whatever, and you can share that. And Ross really quickly in the chat asked, how far back does the history show play? So I hit a couple different ones. I know this looks terrible, and I'm sorry, but I hit a couple different ones. So I hit Lifetime, and can you see the purple? See where the purple goes? It looks like it's like just a little over a year, because I'll show you. So it's at 850 radio spins year Lifetime. But when I hit year to date, it shows for year to date 729. And look, it's all there. So I think it's showing the history as far back as maybe like June of last year or something like that. I can try and look and see if I can find that information later, Ross, but it definitely is more than the last year, because that showed a couple hundred, like 100 something more than the year to date. So I find that interesting that they can go back before they added this function to show that. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, I think it's really cool. Apple has been making upgrades on the desktop. They also added, and we covered this a couple months ago, maybe even a year ago, but they have little questions that you can put in your bio, like what are your favorite bands, and then what are your influences, what got you started. Like I forget what the questions are, but you can actually fill these out. So if someone visits your page on Apple Music, it's like a little bit of like who I am and get to know me, like this personal touch that Spotify does not have and probably never will have. But I like that Apple's doing things a little bit differently and creating those cards that you can share on social media and stuff. But I just think they really need to give you more granular, like deeper metrics, especially if they're claiming like, oh, this is beyond Apple. Like you can get the sense of community and like how you're performing on radio and stuff. Like, let me see the songs, you know, let me see the radios so I can say thank you and make a relationship with the station to hopefully, you know, continue to be played on there and stuff like that. Like, I think as musicians, and when we talk about marketing and stuff, that would be huge.
I agree. I mean, maybe it's something that they'll roll out coming forward. Like this is the beginning of that. This is the starting of something new. I mean, they're having the specifics and stuff sounds to me like that might go behind a paywall, for example. Eventually, and then maybe you can create that relationship for a cost. That sounds like something they might do, just to get a little bit cynical. But you know, it'd be a way to do it. There is obviously, like you say, if they've been tracking, if they can give you a year's statistics, even though they've only just brought this in, which shows that they've been doing it for a while and they just haven't released it. So that does make me think that could potentially be in the pipeline in that regard. Just whether or not or how we get access to that would be another thing. I think what's interesting, what is needed to kind of bring up at this stage, or the reason I brought it to the table in that regard is that notion of radio is not dead. And I think we always talk about streaming, and we always talk about you know, the monopoly of streaming and how that pushes us towards Bandcamp, for example. Either you're all about the streaming, or you use streaming as like a try before you buy, and then you funnel your fan base to Bandcamp where they make purchases, etc., which is all good for your brand, etc. But as we all know, sitting around this table, and those of you guys in the chat, there are a wealth of beautiful radio shows that are around in the community. And
we've got
run
one
by
coming
some
Sunday.
one coming Sunday, yeah. But very much a group of dedicated people who love the music that they do and just spend so much time, effort, and energy curating these playlists for live broadcast once a week. And there's a real community behind it.
Yeah.
And there is nothing. You can't. I don't think you can trump that in a way. Once you can start playing with that, and when you start running in those circles and being part of that communal aspect, part of the reason why we've started music beyond genre in that regard is because nothing beats physically submitting your stuff to radios and garnering a community based around that. Again, we always come back to it, isn't it? We live in generally an isolated place, doing what we do on our own in our bedrooms or in our own little home studios, or sometimes in our professional studios. But to meet and greet and be a part of a community, nothing beats that. And so radio, streaming hasn't taken that, but radio kind of keeps that going in that regard.
Yeah, and it creates a scene. And people that spend their time doing this are kind of special people, because not everyone can do it, especially once you do weekly shows. I mean, that's a lot to be undertaking, and you can get a lot out of it. I listen to quite a few, and I think if there's something that you love in this world and something that you enjoy, you really do need to support it if you want it to stick around, and these sort of things create the scene that we're part of. There wouldn't be a scene otherwise. I mean, we can build a community, but for there really to be like a thriving scene with, music being bought and sold and gigs happening and things like that, you've got to get behind it, be part of it, support it.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that, Sunwarper?
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's important that we go beyond streaming metrics, and that there's so much more to being a musician than streaming. And even this is still commodifying your artwork, right? They're saying, I forgot what term you said they said, like what was the quote, but we want to talk about growth or whatever it was. Like, it's still putting numbers and metrics to your art. And I think it's important to always take a step back and remember art for art's sake. Unless, if you're trying to make a living on this, but even then, if you're trying to make a living, you still have to speak from the heart for it to resonate with people. So I think I don't have anything else to add, but I think that's a natural or intended segue into the round robin of, I don't know, should I try and do EONLAKE, or EONLAKE, can you just say, what's it all about?
What's it all about?
There we go. Yeah, I could never do it as good as him. I'd never have that lush baritone timbre to it. But anyways, he had said that when I asked him at the start of, I think it was ADSN 122 or something, Curtis was here, because I saw the docket when EONLAKE was like, what's it all about? Curtis was typing, and I looked, and it was like, future round robin, what's it all about? So we've been waiting, because Curtis unfortunately couldn't be here last week. So what is it all about? Let's talk. Basically, Curtis, you put this, you want this to be a communal meditation on why we do what we do, a collective reminder of our musical intentions for those who might be feeling lost on their path. And I think that's a well-written phrase. That's why I wanted to read it. But hold on, EONLAKE. Can you just, Curtis, explain for anybody new watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, which if you are, welcome. Leave a rating if you dig the show. It helps a ton. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like. If you get some value, subscribe. But let us know, what is the round robin, Curtis?
The round robin is the segment of the show for the community, and it's the collective discussion, the collective conversations that we have as the Audionautic community. We take ideas, be they about production themselves, or like heavy tips and tricks, or be they philosophical, such as these ones, which are about our journey, and we aim to talk about them and share them, so that we can overcome the obstacles that we find in our path along the way.
Yes, and EONLAKE, you had your hand raised, waiting patiently.
No, I was just indicating I'm one of the lost.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, you were the one that brought this up, so I was hoping in the 2 weeks' time. I was hoping in the 2 weeks time since you mentioned it, you had felt a little better. But we can use this as
I haven't
therapy.
snapped
Yeah, okay. Well, we can use this as therapy. You just need the Moog Muse to snap out of it. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need some
Moog.
gas. Yeah, get some gas to alleviate that. Oddly enough. But Curtis, you brought this to the table, but I know EONLAKE mentioned it. But where do you want to start? How do you want to start this?
Well, I think for this particular one, I think we should start with EONLAKE, seeing as this was his idea. I wrote it down in the docket, and obviously I formalized it and codified it. But this stems from EONLAKE's quote from a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So maybe in this particular occasion, maybe EONLAKE should bring this up.
I love how you said maybe EONLAKE, and his thing says EONLAKE. Maybe.
Yeah.
He's still not sure if he's EONLAKE. So EONLAKE, where do you want to start then? Well, we're at 12:15, so we got to be. I'm not telling you to be short, but we've got like maybe 15 minutes left.
I think it's the cyclical and repeating nature of creating and releasing music and so on that can drag you into becoming more focused on vanity metrics and how you're perceived to be doing, for want of a better word. And what does that mean anyway? Compared to other people or compared to other numbers or whatever the hell it is that's distracted you from the fact that there was a reason that you started making music in the first place. And that maybe, for me, it's a sign that you're not enjoying it as much as you should be. And there perhaps might be a need for some surgery to extract your head from your behind. Certainly in my case. I also find that, it's as regular. Well, it's not regular, but it will come up time and again in the same way as anything else does. And I try not to attach too much importance to it. But for me, it's something that is, it's kind of like a friend warning you that your life's going wrong. Telling you that you've lost the plot a bit and that you need to, take it back to basics, rediscover your passion for creating something and why that is. Invariably, I do that by making things simpler, and maybe just focusing on very small things, i.e., not using all the gear or every plugin that I've got, but trying to take it back to something really basic and try and lose this ego that is concerned about things like this in something more artistic, and use other parts of the brain and just try and go into one a bit, basically, and get lost in the music again. And realize that whatever happens with this streaming platform or that streaming platform or whatever your reach may be or whatever your numbers may be, like, nobody can take that away from you. I've got an acoustic guitar over there. I can play it anytime I like and music comes out of it. It's terrible music because it's me playing it, but nevertheless, to a certain extent, this is free, and it is a magical thing. It's a language that speaks to people you can't speak to otherwise. It's a reminder. It's human to feel the way that you do, and it's human for these things to happen. Hey, dude, how you doing?
We got to do a cat zoom real quick.
It's feline for Steve to turn up at this time of the show and start walking over stuff.
It's cat cam.
Yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, I mean, treat it like a friend, treat it like a good piece of advice, and try not to worry what it's all about. To a certain extent, it's you that answers that question.
Yeah.
And try and do it honestly, and don't take everything so seriously. This was fun once, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the key. Curtis, what about you? Where are you at?
Before I go into it, I just want to say, if anyone in the chat or listening back wants to share their experience and wants to share about where they're at in their journey, please let us know. This is the community event, and this is where the whole point is to share, to get everything out so that we can see that and meditate on other people's experiences so that we can learn and grow. We always say here on Audionaut, together we grow. And that's kind of where this is going from now. As Thomas says in the chat, spot on, EONLAKE. That's a really nice way of putting with it.
Thank you.
I think we all hit these bumps in the road at some point. And I've noticed again, for me, it comes down to getting either lazy or lazy within myself, getting complacent within myself, or I'm not learning something new. I've really enjoyed getting the Push 2, which is just out of camera right now, and it's become very much a new staple of mine. As a result of that, I've gone back to using a lot of stock plugins, and I'm using a lot less third-party plugins, and I'm using what comes out the box with Ableton because it's already mapped and it's already there. Generally speaking, these are less quality in inverted commas. Like, for example, Soundtoys Effects Rack is beautiful, right? But you know, necessarily going through the stock saturator, you have to be a bit more playful. You have to be a little bit more use your ears a bit more, for example. Now, this is my current trip, and I found with that I have a renewed sense of drive for what I do. And I think for me personally, it's this notion of coming back to losing my way. If I want to make something release ready, or if I want to slap on a reverb and call it done, that's when I get more dissatisfied with my own work. Now, there's nothing wrong with slapping something on reverb and calling it done. That's not what I'm saying. So if I'm doing that too much, or if I'm doing that, and if I'm defaulting to that, that's when I can tell I get itchy. I kind of, oh, no, I feel like I'm cheating myself, you know, at the end of the day, because I just want to get it done. The question is, why do I just want to call it done? Because this is meant to be a fun exploration of sonics, you know, and this is coming back to me being at my most vulnerable self. So why would I cheat that? Why would I go beyond that? You know, why would I try and find a shortcut through that meditation in that regard? If you're not being authentic, for me at least, I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, it comes down to authenticity. Am I being authentic with what I'm doing? Or am I trying to make something that's going to hit playlists? And I find myself, there's nothing wrong with making something for a playlist. Like, one of my favorite tracks this year is Thinking About You, which is such a lo-fi track and it's also my most successful track this year. But it's also, I made it for that experimentation as opposed to anything else. So I suppose, again, yeah, it comes down to authenticity. And am I challenging myself in the right of ways?
Sorry, I was muted because I'm still getting over that long. I don't want to say the word because it will get all that crap from YouTube. But being sick, I still have the effects of it, so I have to keep muting. No, it's interesting. I think we all have different, and I think that's the beauty of this show, community in general, being able to talk about these things. But I think we all have different, I don't want to say hangups, but like different things we're in the midst of that we're questioning and things like that. It's like I mentioned to Curtis, I think on the show a couple months ago, EONLAKE was probably here a couple weeks ago. Like, I feel kind of lost in like my next step as an artist. I kind of feel like in this weird spot because my YouTube is like thriving right now, but then it's having these natural dips, you know, with summer and all that stuff. And it's like, how much am I basing on trying to appease the YouTube algorithm, or how much am I working because I want to work in that way, or like things like that. But I just feel lost in like, well, how do I want to work on releases now? Like, you know, that's not really what's like doing it. But then I'm making music in those YouTube videos, and I like the music I'm making, but it's like, there's this weird kind of like distance between the artist Sunwarper and the YouTube Sunwarper and stuff. And I don't know. And then I make such random music, you know, that it's like, it's so different every time. Like, I'm not trying to brag or say it, like, I just mean like sometimes I'll make ambient, sometimes I'll make lo-fi, sometimes I make synthwave, and it's like, you know, in terms of if you're looking at the algorithm and stuff, that's like the worst way to do it, but it's been working for me, so I stick with it. So I don't know, man. I guess to start, I'm just kind of venting, but what I've basically come to the idea of kind of like my strategy is like, I'm just seeing what's working now. And like, I've been trying to work in the DAW again, and I've noticed that I just feel so uninspired typically, unless I'm like in a very just like get in the flow. And like, I've had to just use the keyboard on like my laptop to play keys because all I have is my laptop. And that actually is when I'm getting songs done. But when I sit with like an actual keyboard and the DAW, it just doesn't click. But then if I sit with the DAW stuff, or like I made 3 tracks in a day or two on just that setup, just sampling a chord progression, chopping it up. It's like my workflow's just changed now, and it like what inspires is different. And I think I don't know. I'm not saying these things to formulate like a response. It's more just kind of like talking in the moment. But that's kind of like where I'm at right now. I'm still figuring it all out. And so one thing I want to do is like I really enjoy live streaming. So I want to build an album on a live stream, like on live streams, like a sequential series of live streams where it's like build it with just a sampler, you know, like can I make an album with the sampler, you know? I don't know, because that to me seems crazy. So I don't know. I'm trying to find what works for me, and I think that's important. And Curtis, what I find interesting, you're saying like you like to take longer with the stuff, or maybe I'm misinterpreting you, but when you said like you don't want to just throw a reverb on it, call it done, but like I'm finding that is better for me to just get it done, because otherwise that's when I get lost in the like take 2 years to release something because I just keep tweaking it. You know, like I sent EONLAKE a track. Sorry, EONLAKE. Let me just finish this thought because it'll lead right to you. I sent EONLAKE a track today because I made a song. It was actually, I was teaching a lesson and I was showing drum variation. And I loved the beat that I made so much. I just happened to make a track in an hour after. And I was like, I should use this for the track in an hour, but I didn't film it. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. But I recorded the jam, realized the hi-hats, because I use these stupid headphones, which have no high frequencies, were like 15 decibels too loud. So I stem split it, split the drums into 2, and did like an EQ drop, like a cut. So that one was the hi-hats, one was the drums. And then I did that to the volumes I liked. And then I did 3 masters. That's it. And I sent EONLAKE the 3 and was like, which of the 3 do you like? Because one, the drums are like really lo-fi. One's more in the middle, and one, the drums are a bit louder with a little added reverb and stuff. And that's it. Like whatever EONLAKE says goes. No, I'm just kidding. There's no pressure. But I was just like, because normally, you know, I have like 15 masters and I keep going back and changing the mix in between each master probably 3 or 4 times and this and that. And it's like, I could have redone the jam, but it would have lost that soul from the original jam that I did. So it's like, I could either stem split it and do my best, take a stereo 2 track and just stem split it, be done with it in a second. But that's like where I'm at. EONLAKE, what were you gonna say?
I have listened to that actually as well. I'm not.
Oh, which one then? Which one?
I'm not quite sure. Really.
Oh no, I think I'm good. I lean towards 3 because I like the snare being less filtered.
I'm not against 3. What I want to do listening to it is not.
Oh, that's right. What I wanted to hear. What are you not against? I was like, I'm not against it.
The first time.
No.
No, I'm not that against the hi-hat. It's very pingy. What I would have done is I'd have dropped its pitch. I think
that's not a bad idea. But see, the issue is the hi-hat is split
very
between 3 stems.
It's really pingy and it's miles away from everything. I just think it would be a little less abrasive if it wasn't quite so high pitched.
It's the pitch. Yeah, that's why even volume changes don't drop it. See, but the issue is I can try. I don't mind doing one more master, but the hi-hat still appears the way it's stem split. Some of the hi-hat is in the drum, like the original drum, like the transient. Yeah. And then some of the hi-hat's actually in the melody section. So there's nothing I can do for that. Yeah. So I wonder, I'll try it, but if I drop,
I was going to listen to it again before commenting though, but you know.
Yeah, well, give it another listen. I'm not beholden, but I almost really like that first mix with the hi-hat super quiet, but it's just like the snare doesn't have much punch. But I almost kind of like that for the lo-fi thing. So I don't know. Anyways, this is us just talking. But yeah, let's see. Thomas says, yes, Sunwarper, that's exactly it. Personally, I believe you need to approach music and art in a dual mode. View some of it as pure craft or work and some as pure fun, art, and originality. That's exactly what I'm kind of leaning at. Exactly. Yeah, we just need to be honest. There's nothing wrong with recognizing that sometimes you're in work craft mode and other times you create just for the sake of creating and having fun. I think my current issue, you're completely right, because if you're a professional, you have to think that way. I think you're spot on, unless you're lucky enough that the music you make, you love, and it fits whatever is like popular for you. I don't mean pop music or anything, but I don't have the time to have that split right now. That's the problem for me personally, is that I get, like, if I'm lucky, 25 minutes to an hour in maybe a day or every other day to work. So it's like, I have to be always on that work craft mode due to like this being my job and my YouTube and stuff. So it's like it's figuring out that kind of middle ground. Yeah, I'm sorry, I went to that song stuff. Did you have more you wanted to say?
I was just going to say that, funnily, and you were saying how it made you.
There you go.
Oh, what was it? You've started doing things in a different way.
Sorry, you had frozen. Are you talking?
I've done the more of a Hydra fighter, and I've just gone, do you know what? I'm going to pump the brakes, and think I'm not going to rush anything. I'm gonna reassert control, and not in an over the top. I'm going to scrutinize my workflow sort of way, because that's going to be very counterproductive. I'm just going to be. I want better ideas. I want a better thing to work towards. I'll still go about it in the same way and try not bog myself down with too much logical thought directing an artistic process, but I want to have more of a vision, more of a better idea of places I want to go and explore, and I want the output to be better, and I will produce. And in order for the output to be better, I will do more, because I believe, you need to produce a lot. The 80-20 rule. If you want gold, you've got to be prepared to dig up a bit of dirt as well.
Yeah.
So
Great to put it.
I'm gonna try harder, do more songs, but have a better idea of what it is I'm doing, and rely a little bit less on serendipity and look what happened today, and have more of a, I'm going to explore these themes because these are important to me, and this is what I like, and stuff like that. But yeah, just not rush it. I'm on my own clock, and never now more now than ever.
Except for the 60-minute track.
Except for
you're on a clock for that
that's
one.
Not my clock at all. That's definitely someone else's clock. But yeah, I suppose you can react to these things however works for you, but try not to let it turn you into someone else.
I think it's a good way of putting it in that regard. You've got to maintain something for you first and foremost. And yes, there is space for being in work or craft mode, as Thomas would say, and then being playful and having fun. But there is space for that. I suppose it's about working out or finding out a workflow that makes sense to you and can fulfill that, Venn diagram as much as you can. I think ultimately, acknowledging one's sense of feeling lost on their path or not quite knowing where they're being, and that's not necessarily a negative thing. That can be a positive thing in that regard. But I think also just not being in denial about it and just accepting it for what it is. And if that means, for example, taking a step away from the keyboard for a while and taking space and doing something else and coming back to it, that's still okay. I think it's all about being honest with where you're at in your journey and going, okay, this thing will probably work out itself. This too shall pass, to borrow that phrase, and that works for where you're at and also where your music is at, and just being kind to yourself in that regard.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's much else to add. I mean, I think there's always the discussion of like being beholden to algorithms when it comes to social media and stuff, but it's like, I don't know, it seems like the algorithms are not friendly with music at the moment, unless you're doing something like super viral trend, like you're chasing trends.
I think all the platforms that we use, music is probably one of the least.
I mean,
I've been thinking
about that.
For the list, really, of like, types of content. Really.
Well, I was thinking about that just in the sense of like just in YouTube. If you just put, like artist name, song, unless you're super huge, like it's not going to go anywhere. You have to put like artist name, song made on push 3, and then the search hits, and like and stuff like that. And it's
and none of those cat videos.
I mean, that's the way the game is played, and I get that, and that's what I have to do and things like that to a degree. But it can be frustrating because I think that's part of why it's like why the music doesn't necessarily translate, but the videos do, and that's just it's trying to find ways to bridge that gap. But it's just sad that that's kind of where we're at, where it's like the music is so secondary to the gear or to the this or that or the search term, and things like that.
I kind of hope one day that would just work in my favor by not capitulating, and producing some honest organic content that's not about the new shiny unboxing or something like that. That it'll win through because there's almost just too much of everything else.
Yeah. Well, I think
we're getting
go ahead, Curtis.
I do think we're getting there to a degree. I think we are seeing a shift in social media, and we are seeing a shift in video format. It's becoming a lot more kind of just a dude with his phone, as opposed to this clear cut thing. There is obviously pushback on that, and you do have the more established creators still creating very polished content, and that is still very much at the forefront because that's still how the algorithms are based. But you are seeing, especially with the younger generation, you're seeing a lot more just authentic potato quality, or what we would as a millennial call potato quality content being used to push content. And it is coming. Authenticity is on the way. I think we just need to kind of, in that sense, it's just about kind of sticking true to how you want to put yourself out into the world and having faith that the right people will find you.
But see, I'm not speaking quality. You're right. And that is a good thing that you don't have to have, 16 cameras that are showing all this stuff. I'm talking the actual SEO and performance algorithm. The way that you could have the crappiest quality, but if you have it really, if it's a great track or something, and you have all this like made on SP404, this, that, you'll hit the algorithm, right? That the quality is less to the terms and things like that. That's kind of my frustration right now. And like Instagram is like the algorithm's just not in favor of music much anymore. It's not, I'm not finding it, and it's just frustrating to see that. And I think we have to be mindful of these things if we're trying to do things. But that's where community comes into play, having Discord communities and real world communities or live performance groups and things like that, or a group of people you jam with and stuff. But like, that's why we wanted to do the radio show too, to a degree, like to build a community that we're not, we can all just kind of like listen, hang out to music together and be like, oh, did you hear how they did that? Like that transition was so amazing, man. We can try that, like learn from it. It's got to bring it back to celebrating the art form and stuff to a degree without needing these like algorithms and stuff. But yeah, that's just like my frustration is with this reliance for visibility on algorithm for like search terms and this and that.
Yeah, and clout.
Yeah,
it's all about clout. In a world where every 8-year-old has got a green screen and multicam and OBS, you just think, well, sooner or later it's got to come back to something genuine, isn't it?
Yeah.
I hope so anyway.
I think Curtis is right. We are seeing more push towards authentic in terms of like the production, the topic, and all that type of stuff. I think he's spot on. And I think we hopefully see more and more of that. My issue still, and I don't know how in a social media world this could change, but everything's so reliant on terms and things like that, unless you have massive clout where you can just put artist name, song, and it just people go because they go for you. And I don't know, maybe as time goes on, if you see you or whatever, but yeah, that's just where I'm at.
I get that. And I mean, I have to believe if the SEO market if the social media market is driven by change, and it is because it's very kind of capitalist in that sense, and it kind of ebbs and flows and changes with it's very volatile, that as we as creators shift across to authenticity, that those SEOs or the reliance on SEOs will become less apparent in that regard. If that's what the people are wanting, Instagram will do anything for money, and so will alter its algorithm as per. It did it before. Once upon a time, it was all about photos, and now suddenly it's about videos, and then it's about short videos, and then it's about long videos, as Thomas says. Now original content with longer videos is the thing, same with TikTok. Like, it will do anything for a paycheck. So that's a good thing.
You're right. I don't see how it can become something else, because it's like, how would someone know to search you unless you have terms that they're searching for? It's like the chicken and the egg. But like, if you're just posting videos of like a song, how is someone going to find you unless that song has some form of like, you know, a genre tag or a gear tag or something, you know? Like, I don't know.
I know. It makes my head spin, and it
Yeah,
makes me
exactly.
go
This
sit in
isn't
a
something.
field somewhere for a bit and stop thinking about it.
I think this is stuff that people have never figured out an answer to, probably. But it's like that chicken and the egg for musicians or something. But it's just, yeah, it's like I don't see how in the internet age and stuff that can change to a degree. But yes, algorithms could change, all that type of stuff. But it's like without a term people are searching for, how do they find someone new? Yeah, I don't.
Fair point.
Yeah,
It's a fair point.
Yeah.
We'll have to
Mm.
see. Be curious to know what the community think. If whether you be watching this live or if you're watching back, or whether you're on Spotify. You know, we are there
yeah.
as
They have
well. You
comments
can watch
now.
this video. They do have
Spotify
comments.
has
Yeah,
comments now.
it does. Let
Little
us know.
bro christened it with the first comment.
Yeah, that's what we need. That's what
He said, "Hey, Dad." To
Cool.
EONLAKE.
That's what we need. I think that we would love to know where you're at with this and how you identify and move through your periods of cloudiness when it comes to your journey, because everyone's story is unique but it's the same in that regard. It comes from a dissatisfaction or comes with this general irkiness of where you're at. So please let us know where you're at.
What I would like to know is when you do drift off into these less favorable places and you come back, you gather yourself together, does it ultimately change your direction? Has it shaped you, changed what you do or how you do it over time? Or do you accept it as just something, a little phase that happens from time to time? I'd love to know how it affects other people.
Yeah, if anybody wants to continue talking about it, of course, throw it in the comments, but also the Discord is a great place to talk about these things and free of algorithmic reliance and things like that. But we can all just kind of talk about these kinds of things and, you know, see where everybody's at and maybe feel a little better about it and all that. But yeah, the goal here, I think, if I'm right, Curtis and EONLAKE, since it was EONLAKE's topic and Curtis brought it, is to just kind of vent a little bit, feel where we're all at and see, you know, just what some solutions are. I think EONLAKE feels vindicated, I hope he feels better because man, he was like rump at the start. all that talk about the challenge though seemed to really pique his interest, get him excited, shall we say. There's another word, but I won't go that
now.
far.
Thank you, Doctor.
Anyways, unless there's anything else to talk about here, let's end real quick with what we're up to. EONLAKE, what are you up to this week?
What am I up to? I don't know.
All right, Curtis, what are you up to this week?
I'm listening to some Sunwarper tracks.
Yeah, there you go. You got homework.
Giving an opinion. I do
He's
have
gonna get
some,
like 15 mixes, I think.
Yeah. I have some jobs on my board of things to investigate, but I'm not giving away the secret sauce. They're mine. I had to think of those things to do.
There you go. There you go. And Curtis, what are you up to?
I'm making headway through, still working on the album mainly. I'm in producer's mode.
Nice.
The talking about vulnerability and doing stuff. In the similar vein, I've been lost for a long while and coming back to working on an album which no one has heard yet, has no idea what it's all about. You know, what's it called? Canonical. Basically,
yeah. We'll get there.
Canonical, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Together we learn.
Teamwork makes the dream work, man.
You know, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's really nice to come back to a set of tracks which no one's heard of, and no one knows what I'm working on right now. And there's a kind of niceness to that, so I'm enjoying that. That's what I'm doing.
That's interesting. Yeah, I hear you. That's cool.
Yeah. What about you, Sunwarper?
I don't know. Live stream on Saturday. We'll see what we do. I'll throw a poll up on my channel tomorrow, and then loop layer. That's the next.
See if we can do it in 60 minutes.
That's one of the votes. Will be tracking 60 minutes on whatever I get done before Saturday in the Dallas desk, and then otherwise, I think one of the other votes is going to be for the sketch audio. Compare that to the SP404 and like flip a track using, you know, whichever one I think sounds a little better in what I needed or whatever. And I forgot the other one. There's one more thing that'll be in the poll, but you'll see it tomorrow on my channel. I'll post the poll. But yeah, I think just the live stream and just making music when I can and enjoying it. But yeah, I'm really excited to just keep working on this, because this is like where I'm doing things a little bit differently, and having those back up, the pedals, if you can, for those listening, but having the pedal board back up, I just like having a big sky is like the thing that was missing in the DAW setup, because like the SP does not have a very good reverb. Somebody, a channel member, mentioned that Haur or Haur, it's a modular reverb, but if you shut the mod off and turn the time all the way up, it is a long reverb, but it's got a lot of resonance peaks that pop up. So there's some cons there, but that's kind of the missing part, because the Digitac doesn't have that. I need like a drone reverb, right? And it's like boom.
Sky, though. I mean, you know, that makes quite a difference.
Yeah, it does. And then I don't have that crazy fuzz delay up yet. That'll be off the pedal board, but I have the ZVEX Lo-Fi Junkie, a carbon copy delay, and then these two pedals from this guy on Etsy called Frank the Anvil FX. One's an 808 distortion, not the 808 drum, but the not TR, but there was like an 808 distortion pedal or something, and it's a model of that. And then it's a tremolo, the other one, and then he also makes that fuzz echo pedal that's just crazy. So that's the one I was mentioning to Ryan that he should try and model if he can. But yeah, that's it for me.
There we go.
Pedal boards are great. That's my last sentence. Pedal boards are great.
Yeah. Well, on that note, pedal boards are great, and we'll take that, and we'll be seeing you on Sunday, not this next week, not this next Wednesday. Reminder for everyone: thank you ever so much if you're still here and you're still listening. Thank you, it's awesome. Back on Sunday, we got our brand new show, Audionautic Radio, Music Beyond Genre. We got some great tunes from the community. And we have a sneak peek of a brand new release that will be coming out on Audionautic Records next week. So come down and say hi.
We have quite a few releases coming out in the next couple months. We're very excited about it. But yes, but we'll start previewing them come with this first release. It's a really cool release, and we'll be back. So we'll be back on Sunday. It's our first show, so we'd love to see all of you there. I thought we were doing 11 a.m. Pacific, just like ADSN, but maybe we're doing 10. We'll let you know in the Discord and on social media and all that. But yeah, we will also be back, of course, on Wednesday to talk more gear and stuff. And we're always in the Discord, so come hang out. All right. Anything else before we go, gentlemen?
Yeah. Apologies to everyone in the chat. I'm in a different browser tonight, so I'm not logged in and I can't interact. But you're all still jolly lovely.
Yes, and we always appreciate having you all here. It's what makes the show, having that interaction with you all. But with that, I'm going to lower the volume because we still need to drop the volume on that Trans-Pacific song compared at the outro compared to our talking, because every time it just blasts my eardrums. And I am a musician. I need to keep those because I already have tinnitus, so I gotta, But if you want to crank it, go ahead. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.